Hey there and welcome. If you're on a path toward a career in IT, information systems, or really any role that touches business technology, then you are absolutely in the right place. We're about to unpack a core concept that's going to be in your toolkit for years and years to come: access control. It's really the art and science of managing who gets to see what and who gets to do what on a network. So let's dive right in. So, to get started, we've got to wrap our heads around a massive, massive shift in how we think about network security. The entire landscape has changed. It's almost like the old maps we used to use are just completely useless now. I mean, think about it for a second. For decades, we pictured security as this big fortress, right? A castle with a moat. But what happens when your employees are all working from their living rooms, your most important data is living in the cloud, and the main way people connect is over a coffee shop's public Wi-Fi? Where's the fortress then? That's the core challenge we're going to be exploring. Yeah, this castle and moat way of thinking was pretty straightforward. You build a big, strong digital wall, a firewall, and you just assume everything and everyone on the inside is safe and trusted. But that whole logic just completely falls apart when your workforce is remote, you're using cloud apps like Office 365, and you have offices all over the globe. Suddenly, the inside is, well, it's everywhere. And this is the new reality we call the borderless network. So, the most important takeaway here is that the game has fundamentally changed. We've moved from defending a physical location to defending every single connection. The focus is no longer on where someone is connecting from, but on who they are and what they're trying to get to. Securing the access itself, that's the foundation of everything we're going to cover. Okay, so if building bigger walls isn't the answer anymore, how do we actually enforce security? Well, we start with a plan. You have to create the rules of engagement before you even think about deploying a single piece of technology. And that plan, it all starts with a security policy. And this is it. Now, I know what you might be thinking. A security policy sounds like some boring document that just collects dust in a file cabinet somewhere. But it's not. Think of it as the strategic playbook for the entire organization. It's the blueprint that answers all the big questions. What are we trying to protect? What are our biggest threats? And who's responsible when things, inevitably go wrong? And this really gets to the why behind it all. A good policy isn't just about saying no to everything. It's about enabling the business to run smoothly and safely. It makes sure people have the access they need to do their jobs while slamming the door on unauthorized users. It also lays out exactly how to respond in a crisis and makes it crystal clear what every single employee's role in security is. And believe me, that playbook is comprehensive. It covers the digital rules of the road, like an acceptable use policy that says, you can't use company laptops for illegal stuff, but it also covers physical security. Because let's be real, the strongest firewall in the world doesn't mean a thing if someone can just walk into the server room and unplug the server. Security is always layered. Okay, so once we have our strategy set with our policy, we need a framework to actually put it into action. And in the world of access control, that framework is known as AAA. It is the operational heart of pretty much everything you'll do in this field. Let's break this down. The easiest way to think about it is like getting into a high security building. First, authentication. That's when you show your ID to the security guard. You're proving who you are. Next is authorization. That's the access badge the guard gives you. It doesn't open every door in the building, right? Only the specific ones you're allowed to enter. And finally, accounting. What's that? Well, it's the logbook at the front desk and the security cameras that record every single door you opened and when you opened it. It's the trail of what you did. And I want to be really clear here. This is not just some abstract theory. This is your future day-to-day job. When a user calls you and says they can't log in, that's an authentication problem. When they can log in but they can't get into a specific folder they need, that's an authorization issue. And when you have to figure out who deleted a critical file, well, you'll be digging through the accounting logs. Mastering AAA is mastering a core function of your future career. Now, let's take these foundational ideas, our policy playbook and the AAA framework, and look toward the future. Because the next evolution of security is built on these exact same principles, but it applies them in a really radical new way. And that brings us to the zero trust model. Honestly, it's the only logical conclusion to that whole borderless network problem we started with. If you can't tell the difference between an inside connection and an outside one, then you simply trust nothing by default. The motto is never trust, always verify. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in the head office or at a coffee shop, every single request to access a resource has to be verified. Every single time. So how does this actually work? Well, first, you start by assuming every connection could be a threat. Then, you verify everything explicitly, usually using strong methods like multi-factor authentication. Next, you grant users the absolute minimum level of access they need to do their job and nothing more. That's a concept called least privilege. And finally, you monitor all the traffic for anything that looks suspicious. Nobody gets a free pass. And zero trust isn't just some standalone idea. It's actually a core component of the next wave of giant security frameworks, like SASE, which stands for Secure Access Service Edge. You're going to learn more about that stuff later. But the key thing to get right now is that the concepts in this chapter, they are the essential building blocks for the most advanced cloud-native security out there today. Okay, so that's the big picture. We've kind of gone on a journey here, right? We started with the problem of the borderless network, then we looked at the strategy of a security policy, the operational framework of AAA, and the future vision of zero trust. Now, let's get super practical and talk about what you should be looking for as you actually read the chapter. So as you're going through the material, I really want you to focus on these key areas. First, make sure you can explain the difference between the three A's in your own words. Then really get a handle on the different types of authentication factors. Something you know, something you have, something you are. You'll also see some key technologies and protocols. Don't just memorize names like Radius or Kerberos. Try to understand what problem they were created to solve. And finally, pay attention to how this all connects back to directory services like Active Directory, which is really the central database that makes most of this possible in a big company. So I'll leave you with this question to think about as you read. In the past, security was basically an architecture problem. It was about building walls. But today, it's an identity problem. It's about managing who people are. As a future professional, your job won't be about building higher walls. It'll be about being a smarter, more vigilant gatekeeper. The challenge is huge, but the tools and the strategies you're going to need to succeed, they begin right here in this chapter.